rhyme like a medic, aesthetic flow, and no scientist can't explain the genetics, still unknown. Chopping verbs up like herbs with alphabetical cuts, and watching me is just like watching movie credits go up. You got a problem when I'm on it. I'm taking over my body, no drug or antibiotic.
Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. Right now, I'm working with vocals that I laid down for the new album that we're working on, and I have basically my main vocals here on this track. I have my backup vocals, kind of my punch-ins here, and on this third track down here, I have just kind of like some separate hits that I put in. Sometimes, like I would echo what I was saying, some sound effects that you make, just some added vocals on this third one. So here's a couple tips that I use to make the vocals really sound out, or really come out sounding nice. On the main track, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to solo these, so that's all you hear. Oh, also, just while I was doing that, I was thinking of something. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to bus these all down to a bus. I've labeled this bus verse, so I put everybody's verses that they lay down on this bus track, and then I'll add some extra effects on it at the end, kind of to clean up the mix as a whole. And on the individual tracks, I'll put different effects to individualize the tracks and make them sound how I want them to. But everybody's verse, so see, I have myself here, and then I have another artist who is on this track also over here. I'm bussing all these vocals to the verse bus down here, so it all comes through at the end. Anyway, back to my verse. So what we do is I'm gonna play this just how it is.
O-L, yeah. I doctor up the rhyme like a medic, aesthetic flow, and no scientist can't explain the genetics, still unknown. Chopping verbs up like herbs with alphabetical cuts, and watching me is just like watching movie credits go up. You got a problem when I'm on it.
All right, so basically how I've panned this out is I've left the main vocal in the middle here. I've done the backup hits to the left about 35. I usually keep them between 35 and 40, but about 36 or so. So kind of your ear. You go off of what you think sounds good. The third track that has just kind of the hits, I pan that all the way to the right, usually around the same as this one, between 35, 45 to the right pan, just to get that good spread on the vocals. And then you'll mix them accordingly. You usually want to have the third track the lowest, second track's going to be lower than the main, and you just kind of want to use your ear. So not one single track is standing out other than the main one. The main one's going to be your focal point. These are just, the other two are just there to accompany it and make it kind of sound fatter and fuller. So that's your preference. Like I said, none of my techniques here are by law. This is just how I do it, and hopefully it'll help some of you guys out in your mixing. What I do mainly on all three tracks is I will add a compressor and I will add a EQ to drop off some of the low end on the vocals. It's just kind of by rule. I do that to all my vocals and everybody else that comes in here. I usually do the same. It's pretty cookie cutter for this. Basically, I have this compressor that I use, and this is like my other tutorials, is I'll do the same thing. I'm just going to put a hard, usually this has a preset, it has a rock vocal preset, puts a hard knee on it, so it really compresses anything over, what is it, -6? Yeah, somewhere along the, and you'll see it start to dip here, and what that does is it keeps all the vocals kind of in the same level. So these peaks right here, if you see this peak, you'll see that actually start to dip down, so it's compressing that so it doesn't, so the vocal, the loudness of it doesn't go up. Or
the rhyme like a medic, aesthetic flow, and no scientist can't explain the genetics, still unknown.
So if you could see it, you could see there's a little bit of audio that's getting compressed as this compressor's working. So I go ahead and you can play around with these settings. I don't really mess with it too much as long as I see that there's a hard knee for rap vocals, and that I'm getting a little bit of compression. That tells me that I'm going to keep pretty much the same level of volume throughout the entire mix. So what I do is I will go ahead and hold Control, and I'm on a PC, so I'm not sure what it is for Mac, but I'll hold Control and click on the compressor and hold and drag it down to this next track, and it will actually pop in the same settings down on this vocal as well. So if you double click on it, you can change this to individual settings if you want, make a harder knee on it.
I doctor up the rhyme like a
So next thing I do on the main vocals, I'm going to go ahead and enter in the EQ. And don't get hung up on the type of EQ I have, the Sonatus effects or the Cakewalk effects or my wave plugins that I have. Don't get hung up on where did I get these, where did I get those, how come mine doesn't have this. Really, you just want to understand that you want to use these tools, and a compressor is something that most DAWs will have, whether it be Pro Tools, Sonar, Logic, Cubase. They'll all have a compressor, they'll all have an EQ, they will all have reverb and delay. So you just need to find out where they are, and the terms are all the same. You want a hard knee, you want to play with the threshold and the gain, and you want to see somewhere that there'll be some sort of gauge showing you that there is compression going on. So you might want to YouTube what type of effects unit you have, and just to see how to work the controls. My tutorial's more based on kind of what tools you should be using on your mixes to start off with, and then kind of go from there. So basically I pull up this EQ, and I will go ahead and drop the 40 hertz frequency down all the way. I actually roll off a little bit more because my mic seems to pick up some pretty low end tones more than I'd like. So I like keeping the low end of the vocals off. Basically that just kind of brightens it up a little bit and drops the low this one, so you can hear the difference here.
Yo. I doctor up the rhyme like a medic, aesthetic flow, and no scientist can't explain the genetics, still unknown. Chopping verbs up like herbs, spit alphabetical cuts, and watching me is just like watching movie credits go up. You got a problem when I'm on it.
So you can kind of tell a little bit of a difference. It drops off some of the low frequencies on it. So I also do this with all three of the vocals. So I'll do it, like I said, once you get kind of a routine down and you know how your vocals want to sound, you can set them up in a similar way, and then just hit Control and drag them down to your next track. And these, the compressor and the EQ, I use it on all my vocal tracks. So that's why I'm doing this with these particular effects. I've already done it on this third one. So all three of them now have individual compressor and an EQ that's rolling off at 40 hertz and a little bit higher than 40 hertz. But okay, so after I have that, that's my baseline mix here. Let me get my just soloed up. There you go. All right, next what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a real light reverb onto the main vocal. So I go in here and I have a little reverb called FX Reverb that I like. This is in my other tutorials as well. I use this quite a bit. I usually use this big bright vocal. Has a real good preset that I use. I'm not going to go into tweaking any of this stuff. This is going to be your preference. If you want to tweak any of these things, you're welcome to. I have this set up how I like it, and all I want to do is just drop the mix level on it so I can barely hear the reverb, because I don't want too much reverb in my main vocal. So I put the mix down to 0.02, brings just a tad bit of echo or reverb in that mix, and I'll solo this up so you can hear it.
Yo. I doctor up the rhyme like a medic, aesthetic flow, and no scientist can't explain the genetics, still unknown. Chopping verbs up like herbs, spit alphabetical cuts, and watching me is just like watching movie credits go up. You got a problem when I'm on it. I'm taking over my body. No.
All right, so that is with a little bit of reverb. That makes it sound pretty nice. And then what I will do next is on the second track, I will go ahead and throw in. I can use a chorus effect. I actually, I'll use the chorus effect on this one just so you guys, some of you might not have the effects delay unit that I have, so it kind of gives it the same effect as a chorus. I'm going to go ahead and fatten this vocal up just with the chorus effect unit. Anything that'll give you kind of a fuller sound, sound like maybe there's two vocals on it. That's kind of the effect I like going for. I don't use this one much, but let me see how this sounds. I'm going to kind of adjust it on the fly.
Doctor up the rhyme like a medic. Flowing, no scientist can't explain it. Still unknown, chopping verbs up like herb. Cuts and watching me is just like watching movie credits go up. Problem when I'm on it. Body no drug.
Yeah, so that's okay. Just kind of as a rough mix there. If you could tell, it was really mixed wet, and it sounded just kind of like there was two sloppy vocals. But if you bring the mix level down, that's what a lot of people forget to do. They go through these presets and they're like, oh, it doesn't sound good. But it's important to bring these mix levels down so the effect is there, but it's not so strong that it's overpowering the actual vocal. Something important. So I'm going to keep that at around 6. Gives it that light kind of chorus effect, and together the
I doctor up the rhyme like a medic, aesthetic flow, and no scientist can't explain it. Genetics still unknown, chopping verbs.
Yeah, so that sounds good. Last vocal, this hit one that has some of the extra added effects, and I'll show you. I don't know if you could tell what it has, just kind of like some
flowing. Genetics still unknown. Cuts. Movie credits go up.
Alright, so just kind of some add-ins and stuff. I'm going to leave that one alone. I don't want to put too many effects on it. I usually just put like a reverb and a chorus or a delay on my second one and my first one, and then the third one I just kind of put the compressor and the EQ and level it down kind of in the background to the right, pan it to the right, so it sounds kind of off in the distance. Other than that, basically what I do from there, I bust it all down to my verse bus, and you got to keep in mind this verse bus is going to put effects on any other vocals or tracks that you bust to this. So I put all my verses to this one. Like I said earlier, I have one for a hook, so any hook tracks I'll bust to this. I have my beat tracks that I'll bust down to this, and then all of these bust up to the master. And if you want to put something like a mastered compressor or something at the end, you can put that on there. So for my verse bus, I'll throw all those tracks into this. Has a nice Cakewalk has a nice vintage channel effects unit here. It's kind of a light compressor and it has some different effects on it, and I'll bust everything down to this, and it has a nice preset called Magic Clear Up. So if you hit
like a medic, aesthetic flow, and no scientist can't explain it. Genetics still unknown, chopping verbs up like herbs with alphabetical cuts, and watching me is just like watching movie credits go up. You got a problem when I'm on.
So that's a real nice this Magic Clear Up one really brings the vocals out and takes out some unwanted frequencies and stuff. Throws a little bit of compression on there, so I really like that. And then key that I've been using lately is the de-esser, because a lot of people don't use a de-esser. This is my Waves plug-in de-esser, and basically I have it set to the male S preset, and I drop the threshold down, so
like a medic, aesthetic flow, and no scientist can't explain it. Genetics still unknown, chopping verbs up like
basically what it does is it cuts out any of the frequencies that start with the letter S, from what I understand. So sometimes when rappers or artists that are singing say the word S, it has such a frequency, the S sound of it, that it's real unpleasant to the ear. So that's why this de-esser was created, to cut certain frequencies like S out of. So basically you can hit play.
Like a medic, aesthetic flow, and no scientist can't explain it. Genetics still unknown, chopping verbs up like herbs with alphabetical cuts, and watching me is just like watching movie credits go up. You got a problem when I'm.
And you don't want to bring it down all the way, because it starts to really muddy up the track. So you just want to find that nice balance where you do see some compression happening on the S sounds, and you know that it's working, and you can actually hear the difference if you really listen to it. So that's a good tool to use on I use it on the main bus of all my vocals and my hooks. So other than that, there's one other thing that I go through anytime prior to me sending this off to get mastered, and that is I will go through my tracks. I'll solo them out, I'll expand them, and I am going to might be too much. I'll listen for any breaths, and I'll go ahead and take them out.
Hot doctor up the rhyme like a
So if you see that, basically I'm just going to go in here, and I'm just going to do a couple of these so you see what I'm doing. This right here is the snap to grid feature, so I usually take that off so I can get real close in here, and you'll want to, and I'll just go ahead and highlight that and delete, and it'll take that breath out.
Hot doctor.
There's a little bit left.
Hot doctor up the rhyme like a medic, aesthetic flow, and no scientist can't explain it. Genetics still unknown, chopping verbs up like herbs, spit alphabetical cuts. And watching me is just like watching movie credits go up. You got a problem when I'm on it. Bob taking over my body, no drug or antibiotic can stop the infection. Toxic beat knocks in task one, keeping.
So you can see there's a breath right here.
Task one, keeping the street.
And it's gone. So you'll want to do that for the main vocal and the backup vocals, just to really clean it up before it goes to mastering. If you want that sound. Some people like the breaths in it depending on the song. A couple songs I leave it in because I like it becomes kind of more intimate in a personal setting. So it just really depends on the song. So that is what I do to get a good little mix for some hip hop vocals. Check out the information at the bottom, the YouTube info to see the finished product and the music video we shot for this, and check out thebeatnox.com if you like our music. I appreciate y'all listening. Hit subscribe and stay tuned for some more. Thanks, guys. Bye.